start recording. Alright, well, we'll hope that works, and then I'll probably upload it to YouTube or some shit later. If he's not around. Yeah, anyways, what I was gonna say, probably I'm guessing that most likely when you're getting scored on, it's probably because you guys are having trouble keeping pressure defensively, or you have a third man who's not in the best position if you're getting scored on with just easy open nets. But you can take a look at this.
I
There's a couple
honestly
things.
I don't
Yeah,
remember about this one.
right, there's a couple things that our resident coaching man Tartan has shared with us in the lemurs that are just kind of good tenets for how to basically play like second man, which have been very helpful. And I'm going to put them into the Sloths chat, and I can pin those if you want. But
Yeah, please do.
this is kind of, I don't think he wrote it because it's not like written perfectly, but good enough information as far as the idea behind playing second man. I think like at a high level. I don't know who these came from. I think he said J Power somebody, but basically the idea being, why have I screwed this up? Basically the idea being, if you are second man, you're kind of either, kind of draw it out to explain a little bit. Where's my epic pen surface? Oh, this is why I need the pen. There we go. So, apologies, I've screwed this up once again. But essentially, if you're second man, you're either like, so like the first man, say, is going over here. And if you're somebody who's rotating out of net this way, and you got a third man kind of like this, is like a standard kind of rotational position, right? So first man is over here, second man is here, and third man's back here. And when you're rotating out of net, you're kind of playing a second man as an extension. That's kind of the word Tartan uses anyways for it. But the idea being that kind of if a play, it's like the ball gets played back in here, then you as a second man can kind of rotate back in. So when you're playing second man, in this position as an extension, you're kind of how I should explain it anyways, there's kind of two ways. Like either the first man has possession of the ball here and you're playing the second man role. That's the kind of that first picture I put in, is essentially you're second man and you're supporting the first man, right? So like we're on offense. And so if your job essentially is to try to be in a position to be passed to. So if he makes a pass around here, then you can like make a play on that immediately. But if the first man decides to solo play it and maybe, play it towards this, then kind of generally your job or your goal is to try to like figure out where the ball is going to end up and then try to like collect it, and then you become the first man. So it's kind of simple. And then there's also the hey, what's up, Dank? Welcome. So there's also like being the second man, supporting the third man, which is kind of the second picture that I put in there. So that's when, like, say, first man like had the ball, but now like they lost possession of it, and we're kind of heading backwards, right? And the third man is like behind somewhere, and the other team is charging forward with the ball, and now your second man coming this way, and you have a third man somewhere behind you. Like this is where you're the second man supporting the third man, and ideally it would be your job, if you can, to cut across and to like hold pressure on the ball to force it for the third man, so you can make it easier. So either what will happen is you as the second man would challenge the ball and force it for the third man, and the third man has an easier play, or the third man can go if you can't, and then you just can rotate behind him, right? And as the second picture kind of says, I think like in order to figure out which one you should do, communication is a big part of that. So like if the third man is trying to stay back and wants the second man to go, it's easy enough to just say like, can you cut for me? So you can call that. But basically like the second man, if you have a good challenge on the ball, you should just go for it, right? You should try to get pressure on the ball as early as you can to not just give them like a free possession or a free chance, so that you have ideally 2 challenges when you're on defense. Somebody challenges it maybe high, and if the play is threatening, then ideally you want to force the ball high. So essentially when the ball is like they're taking the ball up, let's say, you want to force it high into the back wall or something if possible, instead of forcing it low, so that way your car is stopping it from going lower, and then that way you're forcing it kind of into this back wall area or into the corner. So it's a lot harder for this guy on the other team, let's say, to go over you, play it past you high, and then go back down low, you know? But this is all random, kind of theoretical stuff in general. As far as playing second man, which is a very important role. First man is kind of self-explanatory. You're just kind of going on the ball, but trying to make a play. And then third man, your job is obviously to try to hold, keep the back line stable so that you don't overcommit or anything. But that being said, we can just take a look generally at what's going on. And I don't want to just like throw a million things at you and be like, do this and do that. So there's a couple just random tenets or random things that are generally helpful that we could probably break down certain aspects of as we watch this to see where that could have led to issues. And that way, like if there's only a couple things I could focus on, that's easier for you to think about rather than like a million things be constantly in your head about. But random things I could think about, like obvious stuff, is like not rotating ball side on defense, not flipping generally when the ball is hit so that you're in the right position, and then trying to face forward when the ball is played to you. Kind of like in this situation, Alpha Chuck is facing forward, and if the ball is played to him, then if you're facing forward, you're in a much better position for it when the ball is played, so you can get a good challenge on it. Whereas there's going to be a lot of instances, I'm sure, where if you push up a little too far and you end up having to turn back the other way, and you're facing backwards once the ball is hit to you, let's say the ball is coming this way, and you're facing away from it, then that just kind of is a general precept to mean that you're out of position. So a couple of those things I'll just mention now, and then we can explain them if we see more of them. But from what I know of you guys are a good team, and you know how to keep pressure together, and you know how to do a lot of these things. So I think probably it's most likely just you guys getting in your head too much, or not like working together enough, or not communicating enough, and kind of being your own worst enemy, perhaps. That's usually what happens. But it's generally pretty good. And if you ever have any interjections you want to say about anything, feel free to do that, or question any random shit that I say. Like right there, a great example of Alpha Chuck just getting pressure on the ball. It's another big thing that, like, for our Lemurs team, we've been trying to work on and getting better at, that Tartan told us to do, is, make sure they always have somebody on the ball, ideally. So if you can always have somebody on the ball and keep pressure on it, and you're not double committing, then that's pretty much all you need to do, right? It's just a great force, a great challenge. And here's an example where now, like, Zach kind of is in like a second man supporting third man role, where he's ideally trying to get pressure on this ball. He's kind of not in the greatest position to be able to do that from where he was at. But at least Canadian didn't have like a free dribble on it, so then Dank was able to get the ball, right? Once again, kind of trying to keep pressure to force it for the guy behind. And those are usually the areas where, like, if you're not doing them properly and you don't get pressure on it for like a couple challenges or something, then the other team can just take a free challenge. That's usually when you get scored on. Let's see, guys. Kind of like bundled up in the corner here in this one, but back a little more. I'm kind of seeing some situations where, like, here's an example. I mean, not really an example, I guess, but like if you're in this position, right? You guys pretty much know this, but like ball side would be rotating this way, and instead goal side would be rotating this way, which is what Dank does here, and you guys I think do a pretty good job of that. But that's always something to keep in mind. Like if you keep rotating ball side too much, it makes it very difficult for defense. So I think you didn't do that here, but I would say in this situation, Dank ends up kind of just like hovering around this mid area, not really getting like a challenge on it. He could have probably just lingered in the back post, just kind of held the position out instead of trying to do too much. Let's see. Yeah, I think like you guys are doing a decent job of trying to keep some pressure on it, but looks like you're just a little awkward as far as like being prepared for the next hit. So you get like a challenge on it, and this, if we look at Alpha Chuck's perspective, get like a good 50 on it, tries to get out, but like in this point, this is where you can turn back again if you want to. It's a situation where like the ball is now kind of getting played to you, you're facing away from it, so we don't have a challenge on it. That's kind of why pressure ends up letting up a little bit. Situation kind of like flipping when the ball is hit here. So like once the ball gets hit, like, and you flip on it, then you're kind of committing to this whole flip from going all the way to here, and it's only now that you're in a different position that might not be as good as when you started the flip. Trying not to flip when the ball is hit is better to be able to like keep your momentum, be able to maneuver better to where the next play is going to be. That's a great challenge from Zach. It looks like you guys had a good chance to score here. So yeah, that's a great 50 from Zach, and then this is just open net miss, unfortunately. It was a good opportunity that you had. This is all fun. There again is another example of what I mean by like if you push out a little bit too far too early, you can't actually get that challenge and go straight into it. So once it's hit, now you turn back and you're facing away from it, right? So in this case, like you can still play it off of the back wall. But if you were instead to wait a little bit longer for this play, and then you were facing forward into it, You have a stronger play out into the corner. Or at least not get caught out in too many situations where you might be pushing up a little bit early and then having to turn back, and then it makes the angle that you go at the ball like a lot more awkward, right? This is a good play out to the left there, and Alpha Chuck is there. It kind of just looks like, to this point in the game, like you guys have had some opportunities and you've been trying to like make good plays out of the possessions you have, but it looks like you're just not quite linking up enough to like efficiently make them into anything. Trying to do just a little bit too much with it. And here kind of again is another example of what I mean of if you push a little bit far and you're not going into the play and you have to turn back into it. It makes this challenge now a lot more awkward that you have to turn back and then back into it. You can't really get any momentum into the play, right? So sometimes not flipping forward and committing a lot of your momentum earlier on to the play and then finding yourself caught out and have to like move back and then challenge is worse than if you were to be a little slower out of the play, wait for it, and then be facing forward in this position instead of backwards, and then be able to play your like forward momentum into it instead of like getting there too fast and then having to do one of these. That's the kind of thing that can be difficult to do, obviously, because you want to like be quick to the ball and you want to keep pressure on it, but it's kind of a timing thing of just knowing about kind of where you can hold your position and when to like use your boost and use some of your momentum and commit it, and when you can hold on to the position you have and then wait for the right moment to go into it. And that kind of gives them a little bit of momentum here. Kind of looks like in this situation I again would probably just play a little bit more patient as third, because you can play in the net here and then try and make a play on that. Instead, pushed out of net a little bit, tank in this case, and ended up being a little bit more awkward on this play and not able to get pressure on this touch until a little too late. Well, it wasn't too late, but a little later than you could have. Back pass here. Most of this, it's not really too bad. I mean, as you can see from the timeline, there's not really too much going on in this game so far anyways. But like, you guys are not, like, you're not obviously getting destroyed. You're getting scored on a bunch. You're not really making overly bad mistakes. You're just like not really taking the advantages that you have, I think, enough to take control and make plays out of them, you know? Some of these instances, like right here, if you can play this. So grab the boost. Got this plate over here, and like nobody's really going to be able to get to this first. So if you're able to like play this along the ground up the wall, maybe keep control of it, it'd be a little bit better. It's a pretty good touch if you can get back to it. Yeah, nice. I'd probably be a little bit wary as far as like keeping ball cam off for too long to get boost on some of these, because one thing is like ideally if you're on offense, you want to try to keep ball cam on as much as you can. I'll definitely flick ball cam off to make sure I'm getting the boost, but the more that you can have ball cam on to like see what's going on in this play where the ball is going, the more like information like on offense, especially like the more information you have as far as like where you're gonna go after you get this boost. And in fact, I may not necessarily be like the thing to do, but because actually let me back it up a little more. Because of kind of part of that is that you didn't have the ball cam on, so you didn't necessarily see where this play is going, and then you also kind of flipped through the play as this was going on and then turned in. It's not necessarily something that you maybe had to do, but I might have, once you see the ball is going to Canadian there, it's probably going to the left. Like I might have turned to the left and gone up the wall and then maybe had a play on it here. Once you saw, maybe you might have seen it sooner if you had the ball cam on, but at this point you could see that the ball is being played in here. Zach could be moving out to the middle eventually. Like something is going to go to the right. Like you don't necessarily need to swing out to cover the right. So that might have helped you be in slightly better position here, but this isn't so bad, I would say. Kind of like I said, I mean, like, it's a little nitpicky in some of all these because you're not necessarily doing anything like majorly wrong because you'd probably be getting scored on a lot more, but you're just not taking advantage, I think, as a team enough of like some of the situations you do have to turn them into goals, and that's kind of why I think both teams maybe were probably doing that, but why it ends up being like a 0-0 game. It's a great attempted play here by Dank. So this is a good example of like, instead of just slamming this, Dank in this instance takes a great controlled touch, has a great aerial setup to try to turn this into a play. Fortunately, it doesn't really end up getting the play probably ultimately that he wanted to, but it's a lot more the type of thing I'd rather see. And we now have our first goal scored against us here. So let us see. So on this play, looks like Alpha Chuck pushed a little far up as third, such that now he's kind of caught out once this ball is slammed over him. But in this situation, at least does a good job of now getting to the realization or understanding that like Zach here should be going back to cover third. And even though Alpha Chuck pushed up too far and the ball is going past him, can at least try to get pressure on it first before for Zach. Kind of like that second picture of supporting third as second. Trying to get something on it. In this situation, and Zach then kind of goes into the net and then out of the net. And you end up kind of having a double commit, so just take a look at Alpha Chuck. Let's back it up to this point. So Dank's got his air dribble play here. All this is fine. I just probably at this point, anything kind of beyond this is starting to like move a little bit too far forward and to the left, and the ball is going to go back to the right. Whereas if you kind of like didn't move so far and we're still able to make a play on this, that would be the most ideal as far as like not pushing too far up as third man here. But after that point, we have this. I would say primarily the real reason is this just gets to be very awkward because now the ball is played to this guy. Weren't able to have the challenge scenario that I showed just a second ago. Where like say if you hadn't pushed up and you were still facing forward here, potentially you could get something on this. You can't anymore. And now you've kind of gone in to try to turn to get pressure on it. But I think at this point, like once this guy gets the ball past you, it's an awkward situation for you, but it's a lot harder. At this point, like essentially now you are ball side as far as the rotation goes. It's one of those where you kind of got placed into it. Just thinking just kind of a natural, like, say Zach is kind of coming this way, and Dank is maybe rotating back and kind of reinforcing. You end up in this situation where you're kind of going this way, ball side against it. It's not necessarily that you made such a bad mistake in going ball side, but it's just that you kind of got into this awkward situation and tried to carry it through by being ball side. From Zach's perspective, you can kind of see him coming back. This is kind of one of those situations where it's like the third and the second man just need to communicate as much as possible on like how they're going to play this out, because you can kind of do it multiple ways. You can either have Alpha Chuck really try to keep pressure on this, stay on the ball, and Zach aware, like fully aware of like, okay, Alpha Chuck is going to play this ball and I'm just going to try to play. Like, first of all, I'd probably rotate back post more than front post so that you're still in this area, and then you can allow Alpha Chuck to stay on the ball and make that play that he did, support him for it. Or you can call him off and say like, I'll be the next one to go, and then just have Alpha Chuck basically leave the play. So from Alpha's perspective, like at this point, it's like awkward. Zach can just say, I'll come in, and then you can leave, kind of rotate out, and have Dank probably behind Zach. So that from Zach's perspective, if that were to go on, then like somewhere around this point, once this ball kind of gets hit and it's awkward for Alpha, Zach can just say like, I'll get it next. And then he can just rotate straight into this play and try to get this challenge. While Alpha would be like, I was just showing earlier, like over here. So because I don't think that communication probably occurred, or there was confusion between the two of you, that's when like Alpha Chuck ended up in a kind of an awkward situation and trying to continue onto it, and then both guys kind of double committed. And it still might have been okay had right here on this play, if you had just like tried to ultimately stay behind that and make sure that it doesn't get past you. But because we had the confusion plus the fact that you got kind of a loose touch and then tried to like play a dribble on it instead of just like trying to play the 50, that's when it ended up becoming an issue essentially. So, typically it's usually like a combination of a lot of those things, like we said, you know, like maybe a lack of communication or confusion between second and third man on who's going to go and who's going to rotate behind. Or if somebody's going ball side. In that situation, Alpha technically went ball side, but it wasn't necessarily like he did such bad rotation on it. Because sometimes you're going to end up ball side just the way the ball goes. Kind of makes you ball side. But yeah, like if there's multiple ones of those things going on, there's a double commit and there's, you know, the mistouch and things like that, that's when you get scored on. So at this point, it's like usually there's going to be at least a couple of those things that may happen throughout the game, and you might need to try to, as a team, obviously trying to smooth that out as much as possible. That's why we do these kinds of things and why you're playing together and trying to keep the communications going. But eventually probably something's going to go in and you're probably going to get scored on. So that's also why like trying to work together to make the most out of your plays on offense will also help you. Which I think most of your games you guys do a good job of that. I mean, I looked at some of your replays just to kind of get a sense of how you guys play, and you do a good job of that for the most part. It seems to me that a lot of times you either get maybe tilted or you get a little panicked or you get in your own head and you end up kind of rushing things that maybe you don't have to, or pushing a little far out, or just kind of not communicating enough. So in those kind of situations in defense where it gets the most confusing, that's usually when it gets the most quiet, but those are the situations where you actually need the comms the most, you know? and also keeping just like kind of good vibes or good motivation to keep like working together and not get discouraged if it doesn't happen in game one or something. Continue to try to keep working because like literally you guys, if you work together, you can beat just about any of the elite teams that are there. It's just a matter of can you guys play on the same page and play for each other, Like as long as you guys play your best game and just do your one thing, right? Like your one position instead of trying to do too much, you guys will just win. That's kind of what feeds more confidence into you. I think you guys seem to be pretty momentum based or confidence based players. So when you have all the confidence, then you can just roll over people, man. So all four of you guys are really good. Let's see. So this is good. I like the idea of taking control here, at least for the first touch. You got a lot of space and a lot of time here. Being able to use that is good. I think the first touch is just a little loose and a little slow. Because if you instead kind of went with it and kind of hit it left, kind of flipping through like along the ground, so it'll go this way and kind of flip through, so you'd also get the boost. You could take it so that instead of kind of bouncing up like this and then having to catch it up, it's kind of rolling up the wall. On the first touch here, it's rolling up the wall, and you already have a challenge on it first, so that you can beat Canadian here. I just want to look at it from his perspective. It took a bit of time. It's like that first touch allows him now. He can just send on this and like get a play. And those are kind of the situations where, like, I think even one of these pictures says like first man. Ideally you don't want to slow down the play too much in situations where like you could get beat really hard. But this is a great example of like you got time, take the time. You just want to make sure that whatever you're doing, the first play is going to be to try to like beat the first man, right? And not give him an opportunity to just dive in. The idea was good. That is a great challenge from Zach. All this stuff is pretty much fine, I would say. Like at this point, there's only 15 seconds left. You kind of just have to go for stuff and try to make offensive plays. So, not worth nitpicking too much, but just trying to. I need to try in these kind of spots to just get like one good solid possession and try to make the best play you can out of it. Just gonna end up scoring something in garbage time, I think. So yeah, I think at least for this game, I mean, this was the one game that you lost in like a 3-1 series, I think, right? So at least for this game, I think you didn't really do anything like majorly bad. It's kind of been saying. It's mostly just like instances where you could be more efficient, could be using your abilities a little more on offense to generate stuff, because the whole game ended up just kind of not really being able to link up together with each other quite enough to like actually make a play. We had like 4 shots, and there were a couple opportunities. There was one like open net miss too, and that could have been like 1-0 or 1-1 all the way down here. Could have easily been a tie, overtime or a win. But is any of that helpful, or am I just spouting nonsense? Is there anything else?
I mean,
Is there anything that you would like more information on? I can also look at another replay where you guys. I think I've got. Let's see. This was the ones we're looking at, right? There's also match state 4. We guys got 3-1. I think I was looking at some of these. Like the second game was one where Zach, I think, was like lagging out. So probably not worth watching, but you can watch like this game. I don't think I've seen this one. Kind of take a look through it real quick. Also, that has Claymore in it, so it probably helps because he's here.
Alright, this one I can pay attention to.
Yeah, well, I would hope that you were
Sorry,
paying
I
attention
just...
to something. But
Well, I mean, I kinda was, but...
Yeah, I was paying attention for that, but it was so stretched out.
yeah,
No,
replay
that's kind of
reviews
what VODs are.
a little long and boring. Oh, goodness, okay.
But on some comp.
Let's see, so I think
I end up not getting the ball here, so I get the demo instead. That's what happened. If you look at it from my POV, at least, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. Go back a bit. So you go up here. You're grabbing this boost. Part of the problem for me is maybe you're just being a little aggro on the cut, I guess. This Dank is back here. I don't know. Like I said, there's multiple ways to do it. You can either have Claymore cut and Dank be third and ready for this play. Kind of as what happened. But didn't work properly. So where you have, you know, where's my pen? Like Dank staying back here and Claymore cutting it off, and now he's facing forward and ready for the play. Or you can have Dank be the next guy to go and Claymore rotating back this way. So it looks like Claymore to me that you clearly are trying to put
So,
pressure on it and be aggressive on it.
yeah, honestly, what I thought was going to happen was once Chuck forced this, the other guy, the dude on ball was going to become awkward, so I get the demo and the Dank swoops in and gets the ball and then gets it downfield.
Yeah, but if we look at it from Dank's perspective back here. So he's 0 right now and he got his boost starve, which he should be coming to you. I don't know if he did or not, but it doesn't matter. So this is a situation where he's kind of already awkward and needs help. And you didn't, essentially you weren't able to get like pressure on it fast enough for him to be in this position and to not really have boost to be able to make a play on it. So it's partly that like you could have gotten better pressure on it, but it's also partly that Dank, like from this position you go here. Again, another kind of thing that we've seen where if you push like too far out this way and then have to turn back once the ball is hit, then you end up having a more awkward angle. Whereas if you kind of linger this way, either back post or you can maybe try to get this boost or something, but trying to linger this way and not move too far forward immediately, then you could be facing forward more when the play is actually like this and waiting for Claymore's pressure, and then when he gets this, then you could go for it, kind of like Claymore was saying. So it's kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword here, but yeah. It's one of those where, like, again, the second man and the third man just didn't really link up properly in this case. Didn't get proper pressure on it because, like, Alpha Chuck tried to make a force, which is good enough. But ultimately, like, Steel Toe Hammer still had control of it, and then Claymore got something, but there's still going to be another challenge, and Dank wasn't ready for it, essentially. But if Dank was able to communicate that he didn't have boost, maybe if he didn't push out as far and was ready, like, more ready for the play afterwards, that could have been better. Claymore also maybe could have had, you know, gotten the ball, I guess, or had a better challenge too. So, I mean, right off the bat, you already got, you know, potential kickoff play. That's good. Here. Nice. I mean, most of this seems fine to me. I like the catch here. I would probably try to play this faster. I played it reasonably fast, but like instead of like you kind of turned a little far on the wall, so when you come in on it, the angle's a little more awkward. Whereas if you kind of were a little more efficient with the movement, you could be kind of having more momentum, into it. Great flick up, but kind of ended up not really being in a playable position. Ended up kind of just giving it away with the flick, even though it was a nice flick.
Yeah, I was meant to go more towards the fucking net, not Jazer flick it.
Yeah, I mean, in this situation, I would probably... You can flick it here, like just a straight flick on net, but it's probably going to be less likely to go in if you just flick it. I would probably take the control that you have here and then probably try to pop it up and like make a solo play on the ball like this and try to beat the guy somehow. Air dribble it or air dribble bump him.
Air
or
dribble, I'm about to say air dribble at that point.
Probably be the most effective way to get something on that. Thanks. Good job of trying to clear the net out though. Yeah. Like this. This is a little bit of a ball side rotation, but it's not something that's so bad. Because you're already here to like try to clear this out. And you did a good job instead of just hitting this out to the other team, like getting another touch and trying to get a play on it. I think 2 flip resets on it. It's nice. Alright, well there you go. So, and clear that out. So overclaimer by Alpha Check has great turn on it. Now you've beaten all 3 of them. Could maybe nitpick that Dank maybe could have been more of an option for if this play didn't just go straight in, but it was pretty good, I think. Play by Clay there.
Not the greatest touch. It was meant to go forward. I just
Yeah.
misjudged the speed on it.
A little bit awkward. That. It's a good turn to try to clear the ball out. Let's see. I think it bumped or something. Bumped Alpha Check, but kind of ready to go up. I like this turn. It's like it works as a good clear, but
It could have been more
could have been more
mid left instead of far left.
mid left, or you could even potentially follow it off the wall yourself. I think this is a solid example of recognizing now that I think it was Dank that's far back third. So this is now your position as second man, supporting third man to try to get pressure on the ball, which is good. In these kind of situations, this would be something you'd probably want to calm that like you're going for it.
Yeah, I
Dank can
didn't hear anything.
They can say like, you know, you can cut or whatever, and if you go for this and you want to take this over the, keep going for it and want to take it over the wall, this is where you would have to calm that you're going to do that. Look kind of like both of you. Oh, where's gonna go? Nice. I like that. See, so here's an example, a good example of, well, it's a good 50 by Claymore. And then right here, like Dank could have kept going farther and faster toward the ball, but you see how he kind of like slows his momentum just a little bit, so that when this ball is hit, now he's still facing forward and he has like good momentum into the play. Like that is a much better example. Challenge. And yeah, I think in this situation,
I had honestly thought it was he was banging corner instead of just a straight shot on the net. That's why I hung around. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'd have just gotten out because there's no other reason to be there.
Yeah, I probably would have just gotten out regardless, but it's fine. That's a bit ambitious of a turn there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You might just be rushing yourself a little too much on some of these, but kind of again, you're sort of just like kind of that whole time not really holding a position or doing much. Like you didn't really even get a challenge on this, and you're kind of just back here, and then can't really get a play on that. Just sort of rushing and sort of panicking, I guess, a little bit. That's sort of why I'm getting scored on, I think, in this instance. Like just being able to play a position and chill in that position a little more will probably help you. Make sure you don't
Yeah,
just give up stuff by like rushing stuff too hard.
yeah, like the way my thought process on that, honestly, was hang out back wall. He's gonna try and shoot this on the net so I can clear it afterwards. Clearly, he doesn't do that, which caught me by surprise, which is why the shit afterwards happened. Because I was just confused as to why he doesn't just shoot this.
Yeah,
Like,
see,
there's no reason for him not to.
right here, you mean?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, so I think one thing though is if we look at the kind of path you took to it, you kind of end up going in here and giving yourself a tougher angle on it. Whereas if you kind of rotate, just elevator rotation back this way and face into it, then like at this point you'd be, instead of like this, once again like facing backwards when the ball is coming toward your position, you'd be coming at it like this. And then right there you'd be able to beat that guy.
Yeah, I see the possibility.
So this is something where like this ball is getting played into the corner and you're like rushing in to challenge this ball essentially into the corner, which like once this gets played into the corner, there's like nobody's gonna be able to get there. It's
Right.
safe space in the corner. So if you just hold like back position, or I mean you could take these pads or whatever to turn in. Now you can be facing forward and turn this and beat this guy. Now you gotta play that way. But instead, because you kind of like turn back this way, then you made yourself awkward. If you watch like yeah, this dude, like you were saying, like why doesn't he just shoot this here? But like because you kind of made yourself awkward by diving into the corner and then not getting the challenge that I just said, then like now you kind of just made yourself awkward and he doesn't really have to do anything. And a lot of times, yeah, like you'd think a good player would shoot, but like maybe they're not a good player, and also if he doesn't have to do anything and it beats you that hard, then like you're doing something wrong rather than just him being bad, you know? So the fact of the matter is like if he can just kind of just hit it anywhere behind you, and that also just like that also beats you for the next guy, then we're really holding the position as third that you could have. Because you were basically like committing really hard to him making that one option of shooting the ball when he had
Yeah, I
plenty of
see
other
what you mean.
options of even just being, you know, like he could just be a gold and just do nothing. If you committed really hard to him being good, then like he can outplay you by essentially doing nothing, right? So you're just not really like playing from a position of strength, I guess, or advantage. Bang right there. Looks like you might have just been doing the same thing again. Well, this isn't so bad, but
No, it's still fucking shitty. My brain
see
was
what I mean.
my
Like,
brain on these decisions is just hyperactive. It's something I've been trying to work on, just being calmer
yeah,
in the brain and the decisions.
and then this right here is a prime example of what not to do: is rotating ball side, trying to.
I was just trying to get him off the ball and give it to my teammate. That's all that is.
Yeah, but
Like honestly, that's just to force him. It makes
look,
him awkward.
if Alpha Chuck is the next one to go here, he can just go into this play because you're both, I mean, both of his teammates are driving toward him on the ball side, like straight at him, he can't really go for this confidently, and that's why he has to turn back. Can't really get this play. So like it's not like the worst thing in the world in this case because you're also trying to pressure the guy. But you can see how like just from a rotational standpoint, the person who's in this spot should be able to go here. And
Alright, I mean, if
in
the
an
guy
ideal
wasn't
world, have a
directly
guy
on the
here.
ball, I wouldn't have done that, but I just wanted him off. So it was a cleaner 50 in the end. Because otherwise it could possibly pinch out and, you know,
Yeah.
we just don't need possible bad 50s to happen.
But if you were to rotate this way behind him and let Alpha Chuck go for the ball faster, you'd do more to help him rather than be rotating kind of into his momentum, essentially. Kind of once again, you're kind of doing this exact same thing again. You're rotating ball side like toward the play. Whereas instead, if you rotate back post, support would be the next one to go potentially. This is another one. I guess this is like a good opportunity for you to get like a good play and beat the guy. But you just kind of rush it and then hit it straight into the wall. So that it bounces back in and now like it's dangerous for the team. Almost gets scored on. There's obviously taking slightly more time with this and actually using your advantage to like control it up the wall and roll it. Be much better than just kind of like just looks like in a lot of these situations you're kind of like rushing yourself, you know? Panicking a little too
Yeah, I
much when
see
you
what
don't
you
have
mean.
to. Like you have time that you're able to use, or you have like a better play that you don't have to like sell out for.
Dude glitched inside of my car. What?
Dude.
Sorry, I'm playing things.
Holy shit. Nice. This is a good play again. Guys get back on offense, get a little bit of pressure. That was a great 50 earlier from Alpha Chuck there that we saw. Moore's doing a pretty good job, I think, here of being relevant for the play. The angle is like a little hard to get a shot perfectly on, but right idea. Let's see, so some of these where you're kind of like losing pressure a little bit. Once again, because I think you're going, like the angle you're taking at it is a little, you're going a little too far up in the sense and kind of cutting it in at this awkward angle that you can't like turn around and get a good challenge on it. So if you kind of like lingered here first and then we're going forward into it, then you could have like in this situation, right, instead of now being facing away when the ball is getting played out, you could have gotten that like after Dank's touch, you're the next one to get pressure on it. That would have helped you like get that pressure that you needed. But instead, that's kind of when the pressure got lost. I'm trying to keep control of it here and then get reset. It looks like you guys do a good job of that, I was going to say, but I think Dank kind of screwed himself up a little bit there. So Dank has play on the ball in a beat, but he is not able to follow it. He kind of like flopped sideways, hit the ground weird. And now we don't have like any pressure on this ball. Alpha Chuck would be in this situation the one now. Like after this goes played here, there's some communication involved. Like if people don't know that Dank like messed himself up and can't go for this ball, like Dank should be communicating that to people that he can't go again. But in this situation, now that we're here, like Alpha Chuck is the next one to watch this middle section for whoever's going to be third and be that second man supporting third man who can cut the ball and get a challenge on this and get pressure on this before it gets to the net, but he kind of ends up driving away from the play, and then nobody gets any pressure on it, and that's when the goal ends up happening. So let's go back to take here. So like right there, if you can't really follow it, ideally, maybe you didn't read that because like you're already turning a little to the left there. Ideally, you'd be turning into the right to like follow that immediately. But maybe like, oh, you didn't realize that he was flopping or whatever, and you've already turned this way. Like, this is still fine.
Yeah, I premeditated turn left. Didn't think he'd turn sideways.
It's like if you could have seen that soon enough to turn right, that would have been better. But it's understandable now that we're here. But even in this situation, it's still fine. But yeah, you just got to get a turn on this challenge.
Yeah.
Pretty plain and simple, I guess. Play more with the aerial play. I like the pass idea there. Chuck ends up getting put in a little bit of an awkward spot, but did a good job with that.
I could have played it better, but
like you did have some time, especially with that bump. Getting played at you, and you don't have a ton of boost to like air dribble it. So definitely options you could have maybe played a little bit better. Try to like maybe get control and get a flick, or maybe hit it to the left where Dank could be, or it's like that. But because you're put in kind of an awkward spot, it's not really a problem. Get bumped there. So this, of course, would be probably you next, but get bumped. Probably one I wouldn't necessarily just flip forward, but the rotation is the right idea anyways. And here's kind of another example of, it's a little bit of a tricky spot, but again, the idea, like if you're pushing kind of too far forward and going a little too far sideways and looking to the left, now when the ball is hit to you, ball's played to you and you're facing backwards, so that means you're out of position. Whereas you could have been, broken record here, but you could have been, try to be like a little slower at first and then stay facing forward when the ball's hit to you. I missed. Dude, it's like skipping your name. Here we go. So that way, yeah, you could have gotten a challenge facing forward there instead of like being a little awkward here, and then this could be bad, you know. Did a solid job of that, and Dank as well did a good job of keeping pressure on that again. Look at the guys back here. This is kind of another example. Dank is like flipping forward and being pretty aggressive as third by going a little too far forward, and now he can't go up forward for the ball, so ball's played back and we're facing back away. Like rushing back on it. In this case, we do have a good, you play this well to know that this ball is not going to go in the net. You can just play off of this. You could maybe try to grab this pad and like pop it up and make some kind of play, but you don't have a ton of boost. So I'm fine with this play of trying to make something on it. Alpha Chuck might have the opportunity, I would think, in this situation to bump the guy. Would probably be like the primary thing you would want to do as soon as Dank is kind of making a shot like this and you're ahead of it. But it's kind of hard to tell like where the guy is coming from. It's only like here do you see him on the screen. Not too much for that either. This could have been one of me. You do get bumped. Fair, but a better play on that. Like, kind of went in a bit when you didn't need to. And missed the boost. Could have gone through the boost originally. So here's actually a good example where now we are facing forward when the ball's hit to us. And we've got not only an open net if you slam it, but you could also, if you get high enough on it, that is, and you slam it, but you could also hit it. If you're going to miss, you can miss it low and left, and Dank is probably also going to clean that up. So like low here, or trying to place it like left corner. Because in this situation now, like that was a pretty good opportunity to score, but could have been a little more efficient in it, because now like here it's going to be a lot slower until Dank can get a play on it. It's also like last 30 seconds just trying to get a goal here, so this is kind of when you sell out for offense. Nice, that's a great touch. It's kind of annoying that this dude misses this, because he could have just gone and banged that, but they already tell when they miss that. It's a nice pinch. Could make it into something, but it's also just very far down the field. Just a couple of these were like, the guy's whiffing and you kind of just have to play the miss, I guess. But it's not really easy to do that. Just assume he's going to whiff. Anyways, that's that game. Once again, I think you guys, like, generally you got pretty decent rotation. I think there's just some places where second and third man typically are not maybe on the same page or the same level of communication. And then you end up not getting pressure on the ball when you need to, or somebody ends up making a mistake bad enough that you kind of just give them something a little easy. And then also I think there's a lot of situations where instead of just like banging the ball hard down the field just to hit it somewhere, if you try to place the ball on offense, better to like get mid passes or like find each other with your touches and your hits, or like make good control if you're making a solo play in the air. I think those are things that'll help you to like be more efficient with your actual offensive opportunities, so that you can try to turn them into goals more, instead of a lot of situations where it ends up being a little too, I guess the word would be inefficient, I guess, and you kind of give away the possession that you have, where you could have had better plays that might help you score more. But I mean, from the games I have seen and some of the other ones where you win and you are scoring more goals, I think you guys are able to do that. So just a matter of making sure that you're finding each other. And a big thing, just in general, we've seen many times, is like something that might help you to be in better positions, is try to just make sure that you're facing forward when the ball is played to you, so that you have the best angle at it and the best actual like opportunity. Most of the time that just means like not trying to commit too far and then having to turn around and just trying to, it's kind of a timing thing, right? But like that one thing, the facing forward thing, the the ball side rotations, there's only a little bit of that. And then maybe some of these pictures that I put in there that Tartan gave me about playing second man might also help and things. But when you're third, try to make sure that you get somebody up early to get possession, to contest it, right? Before it gets too dangerous. And yeah, I don't know, most of that stuff. Hopefully that is helpful. I won't take up too much any more of your time, really, but
Appreciate it. My headset's gonna die soon, so I gotta go.
all right, that sounds good. I think I'll leave it at that. Hopefully that's something helpful. Those pins will always be there if you ever want to look at those again, and for those little points of advice. And
Most likely will.
I legitimately think you guys are a good team, and you're definitely individually all very good players. And you can easily go very far as long as you work together. Stay working with each other and for each other, finding each other, talking to each other, and you should be good. But yeah. Any other questions? I guess anything else you want?
Negativo.
There you go.
Got back. Hello?
Hi.
What's up?
Yeah. So, will there be like a VOD of this as well? Or
I'm
No.
pretty sure I've been recording this whole thing, so
yeah,
I can
because I'd like to just look at
stop
that again.
stop recording. I'll stop it right now.